Welcome to Tech Fever, Play Everything's weekly tech podcast right here on youtube.com/Play Everything. I'm your host, Mike Doherty, and alongside me today is Kevin Coello. We talk about everything in the world of tech, from home theater to smart home to AI and robots. Ready? How's your week been?
Long and difficult, but hey, it's going good. It's been a good week. It's just one of those things that, like, work is hectic. Fun hectic, though. We got a 12-hour stream coming tomorrow.
Today, when this... Oh, no. Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah,
No,
tomorrow.
I thought about it.
Other show that goes live on Friday. So go join them there at twitch.com/kindafunny. Go help them out. Go support them. It's in that weird stasis, kind of like how sometimes happens in video games where there's like not a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot going
there's
on.
There's some interesting
in
stuff happening for sure.
Product,
yeah.
There's not a ton going on.
Yeah, but I'm excited about this first story because it's one that's like, well,
you ready to talk some tech?
Yeah, I'm so ready.
All right. Well, the Motorola Razr is having a nightmare scenario in terms of its launch. So this is our article posted by Engadget. The morning after, be careful with Motorola's Razr. The second wave of foldable phones approaches, and the companies behind them are politely reminding us that despite the $1,000 plus price tags in its early days, now there's Motorola, which is telling the prospect buyers bumps and lumps are normal in the plastic folding screen. It's not really what you want to hear.
Bumps and lumps are normal. Hey, just a heads up. This is a premium phone, but, you have some bumps, you have some lumps.
Does it feel...
Okay.
This is how it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
$1,500, you can't get rid of those bumps and lumps.
This is an interesting one because this kind of sounds reminiscent to the Fold of, like, when they came out, having them to take them all back and then be like, oh, hey, yeah, don't pull off the screen,
Yeah. Well, it's like, even that, it's like this phone still felt good. It's just you could have like ripped off the screen, which is a really bad defect. But on this one, it's interesting to me that they're just kind of rolling with it, and like the fact that their official statements, bumps and lumps are normal.
Like, are they? Because
like you made
that. Like, these phones
that
are...
would have to feel so annoying. Like, actually, like, using it. Like,
I mean, that's one of those things, like, well, let's wait till they get into people's hands and we start seeing, like, reviews and first impressions of them before we, like... But, like, it is scary to see that written out and just being like, hey, heads up.
Bumps and lumps are normal, man.
Yeah, like, it's... That's just how these phones are, bro. And it's like, okay...
The other one wasn't like that. I mean, yeah, the other one had another default,
sure.
defect. Not default. But it still felt like a high end piece of like tech in your hand, where it's like it doesn't feel like, I don't know, that almost like a wrapper. That's how I kind of feel like it would feel, like like a fruit roll up wrapper.
But I mean, I don't think I have a feeling that this is gonna feel the same way, and this is more them trying to get ahead of any problems that like. They're trying
it's not a problem.
Yeah,
it's
you're right.
It's normal.
Right? No, yeah,
it's completely normal.
Man,
I don't accept your framing.
That is so interesting that this is how they want to handle that. Not find a solution to them before they go out.
You know what? Let's delay. We're gonna delay our product live.
We did that last time, and that wasn't good.
Well, that was Samsung, right?
You're right. You're absolutely correct.
And it's a plastic screen, right? So I think that's kind of where the problem's coming from. Whereas like the rumored like Razer or Galaxy Fold,
Z Fold,
that one. They use a super thin micro like glass.
Yeah, I imagine like
bendable.
Gorilla Glass stuff, right?
Yeah, something where it's actually bendable.
Oh.
Which I feel like would be the better way to go.
Sure.
But hey, I mean, I'm interested in that. I'm also interested that no one who's had their hands on this phone for like the demo pieces that they brought out like at before CES, nobody said anything about like bumps or lumps.
Which is scary to me, where it's like, are they the same construction, or like, is it in like 2 months you're gonna start seeing some issues? Because that like brings the question of longevity to these phones. Like,
if you're an early adopter of the Motorola Razr, make sure you get that protection from whoever you buy it from, because on any tech like this, I would just recommend erring on the side of,
especially when the manufacturer comes out and puts a little warning out.
Yeah, hey, but it's normal though. It's not a warning.
It's just
right? Again, you're framing.
Like, yeah,
it's normal.
They're just telling you that, like, hey, that's what. Just expect it. All right, cool. I'm excited to see this phone.
It's amazing, $1,500, and that's what they decided to put out. You know, speaking of deciding to put out, Google's AirDrop style file sharing is in action. So there's a little video that was attached to this article, but you don't really need to see it to actually believe it, because I think people in the Android world have been waiting for something like this for quite some time.
Have they? I haven't.
Yeah, but you've never had it, you know? So
yeah, I guess. And that is, for me, the most, like, what I wanted is something that lets it play, like, lets the phone work with AirPlay in some way. Because, like, getting a file from someone, and it's such a niche thing that we have a problem with occasionally, where it's like someone like Nick or Andy will record something on their phone, and then getting that to an editor is always a hassle.
Yeah.
What they do usually is use AirPlay on, well, what Nick does, because he's the only one that uses Mac until very recently. Greg actually got a Mac as well. It's AirDrops it to his laptop, and then he can move the file around.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the main reasons Greg got a Mac instead of continuing with PC like the rest of us, or Windows, is because that file transfer, like, that's such a important thing for him, that, like, he's constantly making social media, and, like, that's what he, you know, it makes
handy.
life way easier.
I don't know if it's, like, super niche, but, like, a ton of people use AirDrop that don't necessarily kind of do what we do in terms of, like, video editing or needing to transfer, like, larger files, and, like, just from device to device. Like, I miss it on my iMac, where I could just make a social media video, transfer it to my phone, and then I could just schedule it.
But, like, that seems, I don't, you know, I'm completely, because we don't have this feature, or at least the version that we had, you had to initially do the NFC and touch phones.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've tried to do it a couple times. It never works smoothly. But, like, you know, we have Google Drive for that, so I've always uploaded full files there.
Google Drive, I've run into so many issues with.
There
with, like,
always is.
Stuff. Yeah.
I've never shared anything, and it just gone smoothly.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, the permissions are different. Or you opened it with a different
like
email address. No.
Yeah.
Like, if I sent you a file, you opened it the wrong email address, and suddenly now there's all these issues. And, like, also downloading stuff when you're on an iPhone has always been a challenge on Google Drive.
Yeah, so
I mean, this is cool. This is interesting. Will I ever use this feature? I don't know.
We'll see. I mean, especially I think the
also,
big
how
thing,
long till it actually comes out?
Well, on this, there's no, like, actual hard date, but it looks like they're gearing up to be pretty soon. Right now, you can do it. The XDA developers basically were able to do the video from a Pixel 2 XL to a Pixel 4. You have other companies like Samsung working on their proprietary ones from phone to phone, but what's nice about the Google one, the Android one, right, is it's across all Android phones. So literally no one's going to be locked out of this feature. And then obviously other, like, Sony or Samsung, if they want to do their own thing, they can. But I feel like the big make or break for this is it going to be, or is there, like, a driver you can install on a Mac, you know, or,
I mean, yeah, that would be phenomenal, and that would make life so much easier.
Or a PC as well,
Yeah.
right? And then that would kind of fix the issue, which I would see Android doing that a lot more likely for Android to do that than Apple to do that, because Apple feels like they don't have to work with other people, whereas Google wants it to be able to where, like, oh, well, if you have a, like, iMac, but your phone is Android, like, we want you to have an Android phone, like someone like me, where it's like,
right,
we want you to come over and we want you to have an Android phone. How could we basically make that as easy as possible for you? And features like this are a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm excited. Like I said, it is rumored that Samsung's coming out with their own shit, which I'm sure is going to be fine.
I mean, I think that they already had something. No,
Samsung
didn't have a
not
share?
like AirDrop. That's what's so crazy is AirDrop, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago, just in terms of, like, AirDrop has never been replicated.
That's wild.
So whatever Apple, like, they have the sauce, they have the recipe, right? Now it's going to be interesting to see if, like, it will work like it's supposed to.
We'll see.
Thank God it doesn't have to have that the Android Beam where it's the NFC chip. So
I think S-Beam is a thing too, or was. I don't know if it's still happening.
See, that's the issue.
Where it was Samsung's, like, proprietary transfer thing, where we also utilized NFC?
Yeah,
No,
I do. I remember the S beam too.
But like, where did that go?
It's NFC. Nobody
Yeah.
when are you going to be using that?
Well, now I use NFC all the time because I have the Google Pay on there, and it's so easy to just pull on my phone.
Oh yeah, no,
now
NFC.
watch,
yeah, but like in terms of like transferring files, right?
It's just I think that like for so long that's been way too many steps.
Yeah.
And hopefully this makes it better.
Well, and it says in the menu it's the 3 dots. You go to the 3 dots of the hamburger menu, you press that, and then it will be right there.
Yeah.
Just like AirDrop. So
interesting.
We will see. Speaking of interesting, UK defies US and refuses to ban Huawei from 5G networks. So basically on this story, UK is labeled as a high-risk vendor, and it...
No, it will allow...
No.
Huawei.
I was
Huawei.
Huawei
is
I was trying to like
got it.
Summarize a little bit and not just go off the article. But
I was saying that Huawei is...
what did I just say?
You said UK is labeled as a high risk, but it's
Huawei. UK basically the world has labeled Huawei as a high risk vendor, and essentially, just to kind of summarize this because this is a little bit lankier one. The U.S. has warned the U.K. about because they're building up their 5G network because, again, technology, you need to stay up with the times, and a utility that's going to be used so widely, you need to be able to have good infrastructure on it.
5G antennas everywhere.
Yeah.
Who's putting them up? I guess Huawei.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them, right? And the U.S. warned about using Huawei for the infrastructure just because, again, high-risk vendors, like super deep ties to the Chinese government, and they have refused, they've ignored basically those warnings because apparently it's already in some of their infrastructure, some of the Huawei technology. So they're basically going to go forward with using Huawei to help build their infrastructure with some satellites and or not satellites, the antennas and receivers and whatnot. But they are restrictive in some areas like military bases,
right?
Government areas, things like that. But
it's interesting that it's not an overall restriction, just limited restrictions, because you got to imagine that like. So what if you have officials that are using Huawei phones or even phones that are connecting to this 5G network? You know what I mean? Like limiting where it is doesn't like that seems that could still leave you vulnerable. But I guess I mean like the UK doesn't seem to think so because they're
well, and also it's the people that get fucked over too, right? Mm-hmm. Well, in terms of their information and their stuff, if they were to take it, right? Not saying that they are, but if they were,
that's another thing this article brings up. Like it seems like the UK maybe doesn't think that it's as much of a risk.
Yeah, which is very interesting. So,
which is what Huawei's been saying from the beginning, right? Huawei's like, oh no, everything's fine. Don't you trust us with your data.
The fact that they're restricted, right?
You
would think that you just wouldn't want them anywhere, right?
Right. That's exactly what I'm saying. Where it's like, what a weird thing to be like. Well, we're only going to restrict it in these areas, but the fact is, the people from those areas are moving around everywhere, you know?
Well, it's like if there was like a crackhead, right? And you had some kids, and you're like, hey, you can't babysit on Monday through Friday, but Saturday you can come over and babysit, right? We don't want you around the kids on Monday through Friday, but Saturday you're able to come over and you can babysit, right?
I mean, it's more like you have an alleged crackhead. You know what
I mean? yeah, an alleged crackhead, right? So that's what's just interesting to me is because in general you'd just be like, we're good.
Maybe not, yeah.
We'll pass on this.
I'm curious to see what happens if we ever see any like negative news coming from like, oh yeah, information is being like moved around in a way that like it shouldn't be.
Wasn't there initially like 3 years ago, like what kicked this whole thing off like 2-3 years ago?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I wish I had a producer. I could look that up right now.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it's just interesting, and just to close out with the quote again, because I'm always fascinated with what Huawei and Huawei is doing.
Mm-hmm.
U.S. National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien told the Financial Times that allowing Huawei into the UK's 5K networks risks giving China access to the most intimate details of British citizens. It is somewhat shocking that shocking to us folks in the UK. To us folks in the UK would look at, this is a terrible quote, would look at Huawei as some sort of a commercial decision. 5G is a national security decision. So, I mean, there's a lot tied up in 5G, and that is going to be the next wave, like it or not. So
I wonder how that's all going to work, because now it's like, what if officials like from the U.S. are traveling in the UK, do they have to disable their 5G? Like, how do antennas work in that sense of like, is it pinging any antenna that like it wants?
I mean, I assume that's what 5G is, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah.
But I'm saying like if in like, I guess this is one that I'd like to sit down and like I'd never thought of it on this aspect, but like right now, do we have multiple 4G networks and are we only pinging the ones that are phones? Like I understand that like cellular structure works in the way that there's two networks, GSM and CDMA, right?
Yeah.
So depending on what phone you have, you're pinging that. But who manufactured those antennas and who have access to that information? It's all very interesting stuff that like we don't think of as consumers, but like other people are thinking of.
Yeah.
And it's weird now to have two governments disagreeing on these things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it seems like you said, it seems like such a little thing because like we don't think about it day to day, but like that's data, like that's information that's being passed by. So don't you think the sender and recipient are important in that transaction? Right?
I mean, I don't think it's so much sender or recipient. Now we're thinking about the road that they're taking, right? That the information is going, because the sender and the recipient like are just transmitting information. It's the path that it's going on that is now potentially compromised.
I thought they were worried about the recipient and receiving the data or sending the data the same.
Well, yeah, because
right?
they work. I imagine they work as relays, where like the information gets sent, hits this point, gets sent to the whoever it's being sent at, and in that mid transition, like how vulnerable is the data?
I that's interesting because I didn't even read that as like that's one of the problems, right? Because that could be a problem in terms of like how secure the data is, but like if that information that you're sending out to that tower is then being like keywords or things that could go unnoticed or being rerouted through Huawei system and then back to the Chinese government, things like that is what I thought could be the problem. But that's a good point, is how secure is the information over why it's being sent to.
Yeah, that's wild. Really curious to see how this all plays out. Yeah,
this 5G rollout's going to be very interesting. Speaking of very interesting, trying to get better at the segues.
You're not doing it.
I know.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
One of my favorite companies that I like to watch, Boston Dynamics, gives its robot dog developer SDK. So essentially SDK is basically the code essentially that you'd be able to develop for it. And develop apps.
It's a word I
utility
see a lot that I don't have a firm grasp on.
Yeah.
But I've always seen it associated with like developer pack of like essentially now people can start developing their own codes that can be implemented into the entire OS system. Whatever it is.
You can't develop for something that you don't have the code for, right? So that's why I kind of put it as the code where it is. You can then develop like utilities and apps and things for whatever that has that has SDK. So now that Spot, which is Boston Dynamics robot dog, is more clever and polite. Boston Dynamics is ready to set it free. The SoftBank-owned robotics company announced that it's making Spot's SDK available to everyone who wants it via GitHub starting today. The release will allow developers and even non-traditional robotniks develop custom applications that enable Spot to do useful tasks across a wide range of industries, said Boston Dynamics VP Michael Perry. Until today, only developers in the early adopter program could get the SDK, but now it's freely available to all open source code. However, developers still need to become early adopters if they want to lease a robot to test their code, Boston Dynamics said. That way, they can create custom methods of controlling the robot, integrate sensor information into data analysis tools, and design custom payloads which expand the capabilities of the base robot platform.
How long till we get Google renting a whole bunch of these, having them run around parks and scanning it? So now Google Streets, now it's also Google Parks. You can drop down and see what it looks like at this particular area in the park. This is, in my opinion, awesome.
Yeah, no, I do. I always think robotics are cool, right?
Yeah, and you're not scared of them.
Well, it's the
Bali terrifies you.
It's when AI
crazy
gets
robot dog. I don't know if you've seen Spot?
No, it's crazy.
Where they attach the arm and now he's opening doors.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Yeah.
It is terrifying, right? It's cool though.
Yeah, but soon hand jobs.
Yeah, I mean you can get
he's
that.
He's not just opening doors anymore. Jesus Christ. Why is it always gotta go sexual? You know
It's
what I mean?
That's the best time. No, so I'm interested to see the utilities for this. Just being like what the things that you can develop for this in particular, especially in that it can do terrain and it can do like all this crazy stuff and walk upstairs and walk downstairs and things that most robots can't.
Yeah, but even in this, they're saying also have it like walk around and take like 3D scans of stuff. Like there's a lot of utility that this can do, and like long term, does this mean people losing jobs? Probably, but. Does this also does this get us closer to having like our robot helper? It sure does.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
Pros and cons, you know?
Yeah.
But it's also.
Boston Dynamics is scary too.
This also means that like this will open a door of like a bunch of tools that people needed to be specialized before. Now they'll have access to with these specialized like robots. God, that sounds so cool.
Yeah. It's cool.
You know?
Utility robots.
Yeah. This is I think this is a rad thing, and it's exciting to see. Like this is also like, man, what is gonna happen with this long term?
Well, it's open source too, so it's like anybody can develop for it, which is super cool.
Killbots.
So, yeah, well, yeah,
for
I'm sure
people.
I'm sure
I
they're gonna
guarantee.
Get
Are they gonna get the lease for it? No, they're not gonna get accepted the lease.
Yeah.
Will the SDK files be developed out? Yeah, they will.
Yeah, they will. Someone will definitely try.
One of the things they were talking about is like, oh, it could be developed for like a bomb squad kind of thing where they're going to investigate packages. And it's like, don't we do that now with like a little controlled robot?
Yeah.
With a. I feel like that seems like safer.
Well, I mean, you're talking about how robots are so smart, so there'll be less error.
Yeah, but I feel like trusting a robot to like make sure that the algorithm that like is telling it to do what it does with
so now you don't
potentially a
trust
bomb.
them.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I don't want the robot to think, no, it's not a bomb. I'm gonna shake it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it could be, you know. This one, a quick loop on this one, just because I want to kind of get your opinion on this one. Robots learn to sweat to stop overheating.
Quick overloop on this one is what you get. You couldn't have been like, hey,
day.
speaking of sweaty robots.
No. But I do want to kind of get your opinion on this
hot robots.
Oh, yeah, the hand
There, yeah, that's right.
The
Hand job.
So essentially, who is it? I believe it's Cornell University developed basically a technology for soft robots. That's what they call them. That's what they call them in the article. Very interesting, but okay. So soft robots compared to hard robots, where it's like these would be used for like more medical things, more dealing with humans. They need to have a softer touch. They can't be like metal. In terms of being able to stop it from overheating, they basically developed sweat glands to be able to for it to sweat and then cool down the actual external or the temperature of the
cool.
Yeah. So and then they talked about how there is like downsides to actually having sweaty like hands.
Right, slippery.
Yeah, it gets more slippery where it basically adjusts. They were able to go back and tell it to use it sparingly and only when it like needs it, like absolutely needs it to be able to cool down to like this certain temperature. So I'm sure they have a temperature set. So as soon as you reach this, you sweat only in like this area, this area.
Yeah,
this
part
area.
of the article was saying that like they figured out an optimal thing of like depending on what the job is, like how sweaty the hands could be.
Yeah,
and like that's so cool. And the idea that like it works better than conventional like cooling systems now, which is like fans, because fans. And I didn't realize this will only let you get as cool as like the surrounding temperature, while having the ability to sweat, you can get cooler than that, and that is just fascinating.
You can get cooler, and it's crazy how crazy our bodies are too, right? That's built into us.
God,
but we gotta. That's the thing that's crazy. We gotta figure out how to work it for something else. And then it looks like we're getting there, and especially and fans are only in one place too, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like you could take this anywhere. So very interesting news from Cornell University. I might save one of these for next week.
This next one cannot be saved for next week. This one I really want to talk about.
Okay, then do you want to save the one that you sent me for next week?
Nah, I think we can bang them out.
Okay.
I think we can bang
All
them
right.
out. Yeah.
Okay,
let's
Big
do
Kev.
it. Let's
Sorry,
do it.
we're on a little bit of a time crunch here today.
It's my fault. My fault.
No, I mean
it is.
Yeah, it's feeling good. No, but it's not.
Also traffic. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's okay. Let's not get into this debate right now. Seattle area election will let residents vote by smartphone. Something I have been questioning. Why aren't we doing it for quite some time?
No. I'm on the opposite end. This seems like a bad idea. Things get hacked all the time.
All right. Well, let's talk about. So, claims that Americans could vote by phone has usually been hoaxes, but the Seattle-based residents will get to try the real thing before long. NPR has learned that King County Board of Supervisors election on February 11th will let eligible voters cast their ballots by smartphone. The first time this has been an option in the country. You'll have the mobile voting option from today, January 22nd, through the actual election day. The actual vote will require first entering your name, birthday on a mobile website, making your choice, verifying your submission, and providing a signature on your touchscreen. As the state's votes entirely by mail, it's theoretically easy to catch abuse by looking for signature mismatches.
Now, here's the thing. We've done digital signatures for a really long time in the sense that I'm talking about you're at a store, you put your credit card in, and they're like, sign here. How often have you been like, fucking nailed my signature right there? Versus how many times you're just like, I drew a line.
No, I agree with you, but at the same time, we do our taxes through like online. I mean, you can do your taxes through online, right?
Certainly can.
There's a lot of. I mean, you can get. I mean, I can't think of. I was about to say there's a lot, but I mean, the taxes being one, a very complex thing, right? You can get done through online. You do your
mail online. You do so many things online, but we are living in a world where a lot of issues come up where it's like, hey, did Russia hack our election last year? It seems like they certainly were able to look at the numbers. They were able to hack in and look at the numbers. Did they influence anything? It doesn't seem like they did, but it does seem like systems were, like people are, that other nations were able to at least hack in and see what like the numbers look like in the results.
Absolutely. And that's an issue we're having now.
Yeah.
Right? Without the vote and phone.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, that happened in our last election.
And that's what I'm saying is
major presidential election.
Well, but that's the thing. Nothing was done where it's like you don't think a government can make a secure website or a secure whatever.
I don't think they can make hundreds of small, secure, places where all this information. Because, like, the thing is, the way we work is it's not like everything is broken up state-wise. You know what I mean? So, like, states are deciding what the rules are with these things. And can they unanimously come together and make this all happen? It's not, like, something we've seen happen too often.
I think there'd have to be, like, like some legislation that is passed in terms of, like, how this actually works. But I think the net benefit would be positive than the actual net negative.
I agree in some senses. I do think that, like, giving the ability for people to, like, vote from their homes or from wherever they are, from their phones, is awesome. But I do think that also makes it so people will think of it as not what it is, like not actually voting and making a big decision. And instead they're kind of thinking like, oh, I like this photo, I voted for this, without really thinking of the consequences. And that's interesting too, because I feel like although the number of turnout, like the people that go to vote, is always upsetting. The numbers are always so depressing. At least I feel like people try to get informed because they have to go and do this. Yeah. Where I get a little scared and worried that people will take voting less seriously because of this.
Oh, 100%. 100%. But at the same time,
like great, dude. If we have 70% turnout to voting, would be phenomenal. But like, then my fear is like, what, and I don't even know what the phrasing for is like. Well, like how much of it is informed voting?
But what if on the app there was like access to like the different ballots and the different like?
Oh man, you're talking about an ecosystem that is going to be so hard to build and has to be bias free.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
Yeah.
Because someone has to put the money down to make this.
There's already the pamphlets that kind of give you the breakdown.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it can be that. Those pamphlets are not the most informative things. I don't know. This is an interesting one where like it's like I don't know what this says about us, because this is really just like, for me it's a little upsetting of like people should understand the importance of voting and go and do it.
Yeah.
but the grand majority doesn't.
Well, I don't.
Or don't
I think
care,
a lot of them.
which sucks.
I think that's another side of this coin too, where it's like I think a lot of them don't take it seriously because they're not going to take time to go do it. Right.
I know,
if
and
it
I
is
think
on your
that's
phone, I think that there are people that would be like, okay, well, now this is like way more accessible to me that I don't have to go do X, Y, or Z, or I don't have to leave the house, right? Where it's like, okay, well, let's just take a glance at these and let's see like what I could read up on.
To me, there's so many security issues where it's like, no, we're gonna verify with signatures. Seems like
everything we have is online. Everything we have could be like influenced or hacked or anything, right? This is like the last thing that's kind of been holding out, where it's like everything else on the government's online, and they seem to make it secure.
But they don't. We have the electronic ballot machines that have had issues, and those are in designated spots. You know what I mean? Where they're like where they try their best to keep them off network, but there's still issues. You know?
Yeah.
And like, there's been reports of people being like, "Look how easy it is to hack this. You just get this key, open up here. Now you have access to the hard drive." I understand that like having a giant attack plan where a bunch of people are doing this throughout all of the country is very unlikely. Granted, all these machines, like I said before, are using different systems. They're not the same machines everywhere and all that. I just think that phones are more vulnerable than these machines, and right now we're having problems with the machines we're using.
I think it's interesting. I think it's an interesting conversation that
basically
I think
get up and
had.
vote. Do your research. That's what I want. More people.
I know a lot of people, like especially in the rural areas, where it's like a mission to go out and do that, and it's like if you're like a single mom,
it is our civic duty.
Do that.
Yeah.
Sure, but it's like there's a lot of factors.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And like
that is
true. For some people, it is harder to do, and I understand that. But I just worry that phones are too vulnerable, like where they are now.
Interesting. I think it's very interesting. I'm very excited to see if there could be a solution to this because I want to see this.
I'm definitely very interested and like excited to find out what happens in the Seattle area.
Yeah. Well, and nobody's gonna hack a local election. You know what I mean?
I hope that's true. Because like, how funny would it be if someone hacks a local election
the first time
just to see that they can?
Yeah.
Because like that's the kind of thing you put this out there, and now people that have the means to do these kind of things just want to see if they can, you know?
Ah, man, interesting.
So yeah, no, I guess in that sense, it is a good test pilot of like.
Yeah, I mean, don't roll it out last minute massively across everything.
No,
right?
and like that's no one would do that, but it is one of those things that like the more you talk about it, the more ears are perking up. And people that like to do these things just to see if they can, I think you're putting the interest in there. You're putting the attention on yourself. But like again, I think that is not necessarily a bad side of that. Where it's like, good, people should be trying to hack it because
we need to know.
Yeah, exactly.
We need to know if it's possible. Oh man, I long for a day where we can vote through our phone.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
So this is actually a story that you went ahead and sent me. Lab-grown heart muscles transplanted into human for the first time, and it wasn't rejected. Correct?
So far. They're still seeing how it goes.
How long does that usually take for something like the body to reject? Like,
oh man, that's a big science question. I'm better with the smaller ones.
Okay, well, I didn't know. Because
no, but I mean, if it's like someone else, like a heart transplant, I feel like that kind of thing is more immediate. When like we're in a new world of like they are the patient's own cells that have been transformed back into the stem cells, and from that they have been redesigned and grown into the right type of cells. And let me double check this. I believe there was a line saying that like eventually these cells will die, but there is hope that it will help regenerate blood cells and in that way fix stuff.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so far it looks like we're kind of in the clear with. So let me read
go ahead.
The article. So researchers in Japan have successfully carried out the world's first transplant of lab-grown heart muscle cells, in a move which could significantly reduce the need for heart transplants. I'm having a trouble today. To grow the heart muscle cells, the scientists from Osaka University first took adult stem cells and reprogrammed them back into the embryonic state.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's been
there's another word in here that's gonna get both of us.
From this point, the researchers were able to coax the cells into becoming whatever form they wanted. In this case, heart muscle cells. These cells were then placed in small, degradable sheets, which were used to cover the damaged areas of the patient's heart. The patient who received the transplant suffers from ischemic cardiomyopathy. God, I'm an idiot.
No, I mean it's a hard word.
Cardiomyopathy.
Myopathy. No, cardiomyopathy.
Oh yeah. Why is it so easy for you to say? Right
oh man, I'm having so much trouble too. It's been a long day.
But
so I was wrong about the what I was tripping on was the degradable sheets. So the cells are being placed on these degradable sheets with the hopes that blood vessels will grow and the body will adopt
almost
these cells.
Like plaster, but then it degrades.
Yeah,
and it's healed up. It's like a Band-Aid for the heart.
Exactly, that will degrade, and hopefully the heart will then assimilate these muscles, and this is freaking awesome.
Stem cells are insane. So yeah, it's just crazy that you're able to put a Band-Aid for because it could be used for more than just the heart, right? It says anything, right? Where it's you now have internal Band-Aids.
So this furthers something that I've been following for so long, which is like the potential of cloning organs, where it's like I've seen stuff where like the development of creating organs from nothing, like making them out like from, well, not nothing, but stem cells, these blank cells. It's so cool. Like people are working on 3D printing organs where it's like it's a similar thing like this, where they make the cells and then they have a biodegradable material that works as like the shell, and these are put on top, and putting blood through them can actually get them to pick up. And this is like a super important step because heart transplants are such a difficult thing. Finding a match
is almost impossible. Like
the list is really long, and it's one of those things where like someone has to die for you to get this heart, and to think that we're moving in a world where that might not be a thing anymore is wow.
Yeah. I love
technology
stories
being
like this.
used for the absolute best and most important things, helping us all live longer.
Yeah, and stem cells are something that are insane too, where it's like I don't feel like we have enough eggs in that basket in the US, where it's like somewhere like Japan, where it's like you can get shots of stem cells and like it significantly improves whatever injury you have. Like
that's all interesting because there's so much baggage connected to that, where it's like where now they're saying adult stem cells, so it's not like it's coming from like where like back in 2003 2004, like that was all tied to like abortions and stuff like that, but now we're moving on to a place where we can reprogram the body's adult stem cells.
Yeah,
that's so cool. Like it's one of those things that someone who smokes cigarettes, the idea of someday being like, oh man, your lungs are fucked, but don't worry, you've chosen bad lifestyle stuff. Like, you're right, I don't deserve someone else's lungs, but here are new lungs that we just printed. And the most important part of this is you put someone else's organ in your body rejects it. It identifies it as not you, and for the rest of your life, you're taking pills to fight that. This is hopefully will get rid of that.
Yeah, I it's so cool to me. Like that is you, right? That is basically fixing all the problems that there are with like any kind of transplant. God, it's so cool. Japan's so cool.
Yeah.
Like they figure out the coolest shit that's like so helpful, and it's like I wish we had more money thrown at this kind of stuff in the U.S. than we do like drug like stuff, you know, like in terms of like.
See, the problem is who's throwing the money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's another issue too. But it's
Pfizer's making a lot of money from their discoveries.
I wonder how expensive this was to do though. Like how practical are we?
Well, I mean that's the thing. Now? Like anything that's in the prototype stages is so much more expensive because they have to develop all the tools for that one-time use. So it's like, you know, if they needed to develop a special type of syringe that would allow the proteins or whatever it is to get injected into the cell, like the cost of that is enormous. But once it's developed. So now you have blueprints for it, and you can keep making them.
How long do you say we have for this to be?
This has been something that I've been listening to for like just lab-grown tissue is something I've been following since I was in the first time I ever read about any articles. I was in high school. This is something that's still far away. We're closer. I think this is something like, and this is a wild guess, but it's one of those things that like I think there's going to be big leaps in it, and especially, you know, bringing in the 3D printing aspect to it. Like I think we're a lot closer than farther, and that's.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, I can see it being like, I mean, again, this is just wild speculation from someone who doesn't know, but like 10 years just because of how fast,
technology moves. That's the number I'm thinking as well. But I do think that there is potential of it moving faster, where like I know that like 3D printing organs is something that people have been working on for a while, and like it was big news 10 years ago when like it was just an idea.
Yeah.
And now, like, there are prototypes of, like, cells being able to get 3D printed. This could be something that could be 5-10 years. I mean, realistically, it's probably, like, 20 years away.
Yeah.
But, like, I can live 20 more years.
The hopeful,
you know?
Yeah. The hopeful is the 10 years.
And then I can live for as long as my organs are new.
Oh, that's it. Mm-hmm.
Your brain, you know?
I'm very interested to see on how this turns out as well.
Interested guys, you know?
I'm so off today. I am so sorry if you're listening to this or watching this. Thank you for powering through. Thank you for sticking with us. There's just something about today, you know?
Yeah.
Bad mojo. So I'm not going to do any reviews or tech picks this week.
Okay.
Just because, again, we're on
my time schedule's crunched.
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
But I am extremely excited to talk about this next week.
Yes. Yeah, so more impressions next week. I actually got the Hue Sync box. I'll give my impressions next week. Again, stay tuned. Next week will be hopefully a more traditional episode. You never know with the show. The show is...
We're just having fun.
It is what it is. Yeah,
I hope you're enjoying it.
We're just two guys talking shit on some tech. Talking tech.
We got the fever.
We got the fever. I like it. So... if you like this episode, go ahead and comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff over on youtube.com/play everything. If you can't watch it and you're actually on the go, you can go ahead and listen to us. Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Subscribe. Please leave a review. It really helps us out. Helps us get in the algorithm. And if you want to follow more from us, you can follow me at Cheeks_Junior. You can follow me, again, everything I do is on Play Everything. And then you can follow Kevin at Kinda Funny Kevin.
That's right.
You can watch him on Screencast every week. Sometime during the week, but every week.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and watch him
mostly
over on
Fridays.
Screencast.
Sometimes it's pre-recorded, like it was this week.
You got anything else for the people?
No, that's it. That's all I got. I
Well,
hope you had fun.
Thanks.
I'm ready for my robots and fake hearts.
I know. It's so cool. It's so exciting. Again, thanks for talking tech with us. This is Tech Fever.
You gonna let that robot jerk you off, or what's up?
Yeah, maybe.
The robot dog jerk
Let's
you
see
off?
how it goes.
Jesus.